Welcome to Leader You by Black River Performance Management, where we believe work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. In this leadership podcast, we will dive into the lived experiences of people flourishing in today's workplace and beyond. Join us to hear real-life examples of experiences from our own lives and from the leaders we know and trust. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Angie Lion, and I'm with Black River Performance Management. Today I have one of my amazing friend guests on the show, Shantay Bloxham. I've had the pleasure of knowing her for a couple of years now and working with her in a professional capacity as well as gaining a really great friend. I'm really excited to talk to her and share some of her stories on leadership, and specifically the competency of resiliency is what we're talking about today. So Shantay's had some really great experiences that I know and I've learned, and I wanted to see if she could share some of her insights and what she's learned to pass on some wisdom to our audience. So thank you for joining us, Shantay.
Thank you, Ange. I'm excited to be here and just be chatting with you and get some info out there, and so that people know that they're not alone, and that, you know, this kind of stuff happens to all of us. It's growing pains, and we grow from it. So thanks.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to get into it. First, I'd like to just have you start off with your story. 5 to 10 minutes, just talk about, where you came from and where you're at now.
Okay. So Shantay Bloxham, born and raised right here in Pocatello. I'm a lifer. Tried to leave for a little bit, but I came back, I think, as most of us do. I have a twin sister, and so twin life has been really interesting, and I mean, I don't know another way, right? It's just her and I. We didn't have any other siblings, but I simply can't imagine my life without her. The twin telepathy, it's real. It's a real thing. There was a stint where she lived in Texas for a year. That was the most hellacious year that we've gone through, being separated from each other. We'd never been more than just down the road from each other our whole lives, and she came back, thank goodness, and all is well, and I love her, and I love the twin relationship that we have. We have two amazing parents. Both of our parents have been such supporters and advocates, always there to champion the wins and comfort the losses, and we are blessed with the parents that we've had, and the support that they've given us to do whatever it is that we want in life. And, I accredit who I've been able to become today, to them and the roots that they put down for me, and they led by example, and an amazing example. They both worked hard, busted their butts for where they've gotten in their life, and it was some big shoes to fill, but they led a great example for us. I am married to my high school sweetheart. We have an interesting story. We'll have to tell that another time. We have two children, two teenagers. He is an amazing man. He challenges me. He helps me step outside of my comfort zone, and I love him for that. Our children are amazing children. Mm-hmm. It's a hard world today to be a kid, and I couldn't even imagine being a high schooler today. But we have really amazing children who make good choices and have good consciences and all of those things. So we feel really grateful for that. A little bit more into where, how I became where I am today, and it wasn't without a lot of obstacles and some candle blower outers, mm-hmm. If only I could go back 10 years ago to the knowledge that I have today through, emotional intelligence and, this idea of resiliency and all of those things. I would love to go back and tell my younger self, not everybody will like you, right? We've had this conversation. Not everybody will like you, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. Focus on the people who are important to you. Stay committed to yourself and your goals and your aspirations, and the rest will come. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of my younger years people pleasing. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us are recovering people pleasers.
Yeah, for sure.
The time I could have got back in my life to do other things if I wasn't so focused on pleasing people. But I am currently the CEO at SEICAA. I started at SEICAA 15 years ago as a temporary employee. They brought me on to work with them for just a few short months during their energy assistance program. And 15 years later, I'm still there. They never got rid of me. And I was exposed to some tough things, mm-hmm. during my time at SEICAA, as I literally came from the bottom mm-hmm. to the top, right? But I also was fortunate to have mentorships offered to me and given to me at SEICAA, more specifically Deb Hemmert, who I succeeded when she retired from being the CEO, who recognize things in me when I didn't recognize, when I was young and immature and at the time a struggling single mom, I was just looking for my place in the world and how am I going to raise this kid and provide some foundation for him and all of those things. And she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself then, and she took me under her wing, and the rest kind of feels like history now. And it's finally all out in the open, so we can talk about it. Woo! After 15 amazing years at SEICAA, there was just something in my soul that said, I'm ready for something different. I've outgrown SEICAA in the best way possible, and I am excited to be moving into the role of CEO at United Way of Southeastern Idaho on June 6th. Really exciting things, but it opens up a whole new world of, change is good. Change is hard, but change is good. And this wouldn't be possible for me if I didn't have the exposure to the tools and resources. More specifically, the emotional intelligence. I mean, I'm able to process those things and be mindful of my thoughts and how they're making me feel. And so a lot of that has been a driving force to just keep following my heart. Something was telling me that, I needed something different, and it was time, and it was going to be okay, and I could handle this. And so 15 years later, here I am, and it feels really good. I'm not going to lie, it does feel scary, but more than scary, it feels really good.
That's awesome. I'm so excited about that. I know you've shared with me a story about you probably wouldn't have stayed at SEICAA 15 years if it wasn't for a gal named Sharon.
Sharon. We should all be Sharons.
Yeah.
Sharon, oh, I wish I could connect with her. I've tried to search her out. But my very first day at SEICAA, for those who maybe not familiar with SEICAA, our busiest season is energy assistance, where, it's a lot of transactional things happening, making sure that those who are in need can have their power stay on, their heat source, all those things. We know it gets cold here in Idaho during the winter. Anywho, I showed up on my first day. I met with my supervisor at the time, who dumped this huge manual in front of my face, walked me down to my desk and said, read through this, holler at me if you have any questions, but don't take too long because we booked you a solid appointment slots for the afternoon. I had never even heard of SEICAA until I responded to a job ad in the paper. So I literally had no clue. And bless Sharon, she was in the cubicle next to me, and she swooped me up under her wing and she said, don't stress. You can sit with me. I'm going to sit with you. The appointments may take longer, but between the two of us, we're going to get through it. And honestly, if it wasn't for Sharon and if she wouldn't have been that person for me, I never would have showed back up for my second day there because I was terrified. I was a young 21-year-old.
Yeah.
This was my first real endeavor at a career, in an office space. Before then, I helped my mom with her cleaning business that she had because it helped me be flexible in the single mom life that I needed for my young son at that time. I was terrified.
No kidding.
Terrified. And then I'm literally thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
And, so Sharon.
Be a Sharon, not a Karen.
Be a Sharon, not a Karen. And
Right.
she is credited for, where I've come today, because literally without her, I would never have came back.
Yeah.
I would have said the hell with this.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, we need more Sharons in the workplace.
We do.
And having the privilege of working in a lot of different workplaces, I see this. And so I think that is one of the things that helps us build resiliency, is having those people we know that can be an anchor, or somebody that we can go to in the workplace or in our personal lives, that we know that this person they've got our life support. They're kind of like, they're the person we can look to when we need help. So I love that story. It's just amazing. And every time I think of it, I think, what if she hadn't have been there? Like, what would have been different?
Right. Where would my life have gone? Who knows? It probably would have been one dead end job to another, because at that point I was just, my focus was to financially provide for, this person who I'm now fully responsible for. He's just an infant, and the only way I knew how to do that was just to find something that was going to give me some sort of financial kickback. Yeah. So it probably would have been full, I'm sure I would have landed somewhere. But, the other opportunities that I've been exposed to at SEICAA through leadership and, to be able to meet you and how this has blossomed and grown into a friendship. And I really feel that none of those things would have happened.
Yeah. So do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about the single life, or how that went down and how that built resilience in your life?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It was tough. My husband, who I'm married to now, it's our son, but he wasn't ready to grow up. We were young 21-year-olds. And anyway, I I had to, you know, what other choice did I have? I had this person growing in me that was going to need me. And while I had the best support system, you know, I did. And I'm thankful for that every single day. But it also it's on me now. Like it's it's not my parents' job to make sure I can provide for my child. And because that's what I watched my parents do, you know, I mean, it was their responsibility to provide for their children. And that's what I wanted to do. And we moved out into our first apartment. And the only way we were able to do that is because I qualified for housing. We would never been able to have our first apartment for a long time. You know, I signed up for food stamps because what was I making back then? You know, $7 an hour maybe. There was no way we could provide for all of that. And I'm grateful that those resources were there. And I think that's a huge driving force of how I knew I found my passion and my purpose in life when I landed at SEICAA. You know, when I went home at the end of that first day, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be because I know what those programs and services do, you know, how they help people achieve a better quality of life and move on and be able to accomplish some of the things I've been able to accomplish. I don't, you know, where would I have been without those things? For sure. But, you know, it was a lot of trials and tribulations and, you know, just navigating those waters. And once I found what I call, you know, my real adult career, when I moved in there, this kind of 9-to-5 gig, and my son went to daycare then. He hadn't had to go to daycare before. But being that single mom life and knowing that, you know, I wanted him to have the good life that I had and supportive parents and, you know, all of those things, I mean, that fueled me to keep going and keep doing better and to just show up as my best self every single day. I mean, back then I wouldn't have called it that, right? It was just survival mode. Right. Yeah, but looking back now, I mean, that's what it was that, you know, that was the fuel that kept me going is, you know, this is temporary. I don't want to stay on state assistance. It's here to help me and, you know, it will help me, but I don't want to, you know, that's not a forever thing. And so what do I need to do to move beyond that and be self-sufficient and be doing this on our own?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're just struggling for the basic human needs at that point. You're just trying to get through. Well, that's amazing that you needed the assistance and then you were able to provide and continue on. And I could see how that can be just so aligned with your core values and your purpose. And so it is great to get to see that the resilience that you learned through all the trials and tribulations, they just kind of guide you to the places that you need to be.
They do.
You don't expect, nobody goes, oh, I want to grow up and work at SEICAA.
No.
Right? Like, you end up in places where life takes you because of the things you go through.
Absolutely.
You know,
right.
you don't.
What's that saying that we like from Peter? Life is revelatory. It reveals who you are versus is the reason for who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. And it's, you know, I didn't have the emotional maturity or the emotional mentality at that time to call it things of resilience, but that's absolutely what was happening in my life. That's what I was building, you know, aside from having the core desire to, you know, succeed and move beyond and, you know, move beyond those assistances that were available. You know, I didn't know enough then to think that I was building resiliency.
No.
Again, because you're just in survival mode and you just know that you want a different tomorrow.
Yeah, you're in fight or flight mainly.
Yeah.
Just kind of, you're not even conscious really. You're just trying to provide and just showing up every day, and it's kind of a blur.
It is, right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one day at a time. At that point in my life, there was no such thing as 5-year goals. I mean, you always knew those things, but somehow they just, you know, you're kicking the can down the road because it's just one day at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
You mentioned candle blower outers, and I think we've all had some of those. And when we're talking about candle blower outers, that means that people aren't. The other term for it is Schadenfreude. People who enjoy seeing you suffer or not get what you want, joy in other people's pain. And so, do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about just some of the experiences you had to go through making your way up the ranks? Because when you're in an organization and you're a peer and then you make your way up to the CEO, that doesn't happen easily or without people trying to tear you back or keep you back down.
It's true. You know, my good friend and mentor, Deb, you know, she told me that, you know, as I kind of started moving into these things and she started seeing that potential in me that I could be in leadership roles. And, you know, she told me from early on, it's lonely at the top. it's not a bad thing, but, you know, trying to kind of just prepare me for what that may be, that not everybody's in your corner. Because as a young, naive, you know, 20-some-year-old who had spent most of her life trying to please people, that's just, you know, that was the mindset of like, oh, if I just please them long enough, or, you know, do the right thing, say the right things, of course they're going to be in my corner, you know. So I was a little bit naive in thinking that, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Yeah. But boy, did it. And the people that you would least expect, you know, somebody who pretended to be in your corner, you know, looking back on it now, it was somebody who pretended to be in my corner because it benefited them at the time. You know, it wasn't because they were authentically in my corner. It was because I served a purpose for them, you know, what I was doing for them, and my role as them as my superior, whatever that looked like, was more about them than it was about me, for sure. And the one person who she was my direct supervisor since the day I had started at SEICAA. And a position had come open due to natural attrition, and I felt strongly, you know, like I can do this, and I'm doing this all the time, you know, and I love to learn. I like to know the how to the why and the why to the how, and so I'm a question person, you know, that's kind of always just been who I am. And so naturally that helped me gain the knowledge that I needed, and, you know, people were looking to me, you know, a little bit, even if they were a more seasoned employee, but that wasn't, you know, the program I was working in wasn't the program they were working in. And so, you know, they were reaching out to me because I took the time to ask the questions, and, you know, who do I need to talk to get this information? And anyway, so I felt like I was a good employee, you know. I felt like, well, this just feels natural. I know this information. I love it. You know, I love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And the person who was my supervisor at the time, who I would have stayed under her, later I found out, of course, after I got the position, that she was the biggest opposer to me having it. She said I wasn't smart enough. She said that she didn't think that I had what it took, that I just wouldn't be able to be a leader, that I was too young. I didn't have the education necessarily. You know, at that point I didn't have a college education. I had a high school education. And that hurt, you know. I mean, still being young and naive and not really exposed to some of this leadership stuff. You know, what is leadership and what does it mean and how does it feel and all these kinds of things. That was a big dagger in my heart.
For sure.
Because I thought that she was in my corner, you know, to find that out. But there was just still something in me. Like I said, I didn't know what those things meant, but I knew there was something burning inside of me that said, screw you, you know, whatever, then I'll just keep going without you. And luckily, because I had the Debs of the world who, you know, saw that in me as well, and opened up those opportunities for me, it was possible. But, you know, there was definitely that core, the core in me, the fire that burned in me that said, you know, I want more. I have this motto that I live by, and it drives my husband crazy because he's pretty measured, but my motto is want more, get more. If we don't want more, how do we get more? And it makes him crazy because he views it as that I'm not satisfied, that I'm never happy with what we have or what we've accomplished. And so we have to have that conversation of that's not what it means, but if we're not always working towards more, how do we ever get more? Yeah. And I think that I can terminize it now, you know, but back then I wouldn't have known that was my motto. I just knew that I wanted more, I wanted different, I wanted better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had that internal drive. That's one thing that I notice about the leaders that are resilient, is that they really have this mindset of, it really doesn't matter what people say to me or what happens to me or what I'm going through. The situation, I know what my purpose is. I know that I'm meant to do this. And that is knowing yourself, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's absolutely knowing yourself, even without knowing yourself.
Without knowing yourself, but
Right.
you hear that still small voice. You have to be able to trust yourself, and you have to be able to put the naysayers' voices kind of quiet, and also be quiet long enough to listen to the people who are supporting you and are in your corner. Thank God for the Debs and the Sharons and the ones who show
and the
up.
Angies, now the Angies in my life.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Who say you can do hard things, and who help you kind of peel back the layers of that onion. I mean, that's one of the things that you have done for me, is to peel back the layer of that onion of, Shantay, you've done hard things, you know, and just kind of talking me through what are those hard things. And yeah, you're right. You know, I've done hard things, and what's different about this. And, you know, I'm going to look back on this in a few months and say, I did the damn thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the questions that always comes to me when I'm in something that I feel like might be a big deal, I ask myself, is this going to matter in 5 months, or 5 minutes, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? And it helps me put things into perspective, because sometimes we overreact about things that aren't going to really matter down the road. I mean, the decision does, but people's reaction to it, probably not as much. So,
yes.
did you have some? Well, I know you did. Did you have some negative reactions to your decision to leave?
To leave SEICAA?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Their reactions, again, that I would have maybe expected from some people, but not from the people that they ended up coming from. You know, through the course of my career at SEICAA, I have worked with some friends, you know, friends who were friends before we worked together at SEICAA. And it was great and fun, and, you know, there was the goodness in it in the early years of it, and then it's just started changing, you know, right in front of your face, and months later you look back, or, you know, years later, whatever. But we just grew in different directions, you know, not above or below, just simply in different directions. And at some point they ended up being underneath my leadership. I mean, you know, when you become the CEO, ultimately everybody's underneath you, even though there might be some of those layers. And I thought it would be fine. You know, I thought that our friendship could stand the test of time, and that it would weather anything, and that we had done a good job at being intentionally focused to having, you know, the right boundaries, the proper boundaries. And, you know, inside these walls, we're these people. Outside of these walls, we can be these people. And I was wrong. And it hurt, you know, it hurt really bad. And I've lost one of those friendships since. And it hurt, you know, it stings to the core.
Yeah.
To lose a lifelong friend who certainly we've weathered harder stuff than this, you know, in 34 years. Right. We've definitely weathered harder stuff than this. We've survived, you know, relationships and marriages and divorces and, you know, all these kinds of things. And I guess I was just naive. You know, again, I think that the naiveness in me, you know, this isn't going to happen to me. I mean, I know this happens to other people, but it's not going to happen to me because it's different. We're different.
I think it's that optimism that you have, is just believing all people are good. And I have that too. It's one of the things that we share, is just an optimism and thinking that everybody's going, you know, everybody's out to help you and things, where it's just, that's not the real world, you know?
Yeah.
I heard a quote this morning on my way in from Hemingway: "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken pieces."
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that's true. Like, where you've been broken is where you're strong. It's also where you can help other people. And you can empathize with people better when you know, gosh, it's so much easier to empathize with somebody if you've went through a divorce, when they're going through a divorce, or when you've had to let a job go, and you know what it feels like to kind of be shunned from the tribe and things like that. So we're all going through this human experience, and nobody's alone in it. But it's nice to share this, because I don't think people really realize that the struggle is real for everyone. We're not in the same boat. We're all in the same storm.
Right.
And
I
so,
love that. I love that. There's no more perfect way to say it than that.
Yeah, because some people are on a cruise ship. Some people are on a
little
yacht.
John boat that they're paddling,
and
right?
some people have holes in their boat. And you never know what people's struggle is, or what's made them get to where they are. So, do you think that all of this has made you a more empathetic leader?
Definitely. Because I'm able to feel, I feel those emotions differently. You know, I recognize them quicker, and I'm not as naive about it, right? So I'm more hyper aware of the circumstances, and because I want to do better. You know, you always want to have a better outcome. You know, if this were to happen again, we always say that. You know, how would I respond if I could do this over again? Or, you know, if we could do these things, what would the outcome be? And so it's definitely made me hyper aware, maybe even a little too sensitive, because some trust is broken there. And like you said, we're optimistic people. You know, we believe the good in everybody. We want I want to believe at my core that everybody wants to do good. You know, some people just are in a different boat than you, and that's, you know, and that's fine. But definitely I think I respond differently, you know, now, and I want to get out ahead of it. For instance, they're not a similar situation, but, you know, a space where a difficult conversation needed to happen, and believe I handled that differently than how I handled it before. Not that how I handled it before was wrong. It's what felt right in the moment, and, you know, the conversation that felt needed to happen. But I know I handled it differently. I know I came in more emotionally mature. I came in more focused to a better outcome.
Well, don't you feel like resiliency helps you have difficult conversations too?
Absolutely.
If you know that you can do hard things, and you know that, you know, you've already thought through worst case scenario, you still need to stand your truth and stand for your values and everything. And so when you have those difficult conversations, do you feel like your resilience plays a role in that?
Absolutely. I think it plays a role in that whole picture, right? From how you approach it to when you're knees deep in it, and to how you feel after, and to because I feel like I'm better at not festering. You know, resiliency helps me not fester in things long after that ship has sailed.
Right.
You know, why do I keep going back to this? And so again, like I said earlier, I'm better at recognizing when those feelings are surfacing. You know, is it resentment? And then I'm also better at coming right back with that, saying, Shantay, that ship has sailed. Why are you even letting it have any sort of effect over your being or your emotional state of mind?
Yeah. So when you're in a difficult place, what are some of the strategies or places that you go, or things that you turn to kind of keep yourself afloat?
Absolutely. And it's not just because you're sitting next to me, but I hear your voice in my head a lot, you know, since we've started this relationship a couple of years ago. And some of the things that you have, you know, both taught me through the emotional intelligence framework, and just, you know, in the friendship that we have birthed from that professional encounter of, you can't control, you know, how they're feeling. You can't control how they're going to respond. You can control how you approach it, and you can control how you respond to it. And I honestly, your voice lives in the back of my head a lot when I go through these difficult situations. Just on Monday, I had to deal with one. And that's just what kind of kept coming to the front of my mind of, you're only in control of how you respond to this, and then how you react to it. You know, we can all prepare for people's reactions, right? We can assume that we know how they're going to respond, but you never know. And people surprise the hell out of you all the time.
Yeah, they do.
And there's a quote from just a resilience article, you know, that I've been reading that says, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And I think that that's huge. And we have to, that has to be at the forefront of everything that we're doing. And it goes back to, you know, what you have taught me of, you're only in control of you. So focus on, you know, what this is going to do to you, how you're going to respond to it, approach with empathy, you know, and resiliency. And it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You know, things may not feel okay right now, but I'm going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Just knowing that life is, I think as we get older, we find out that life is hard. I mean, nobody gets out alive.
No,
I mean,
no. Did you share a meme the other day? Was it you? Somebody said that. It was talking about life. Maybe it was my mom, but it said that. Nobody's getting out of here alive.
It's true. And sometimes you just think, oh, am I going to die now? Because it's that rough.
Right.
But, or I would like to, you know, you get to that point too.
Sure.
And then you're like, well, you know, we do know that I kind of like to picture life as like a river, and especially with Black River, right?
Yeah.
You think about that. But there's some really turbulent times, some five class rapids and things. And you know that just a ways down, that storm's going to pass. And there's going to be brighter days. There's going to be a beach ahead to get off and take a little bit of a rest. We never, as humans, really get 100% rest because we're not objects. So we're always growing, moving, changing, getting older, all of those things. So we're always a moving target. But whenever I'm in one of those moments, I always try to think that I'm just going through a class 5 or something. Like I'm in that moment, and my ship sometimes my boat gets turned upside down.
Yeah.
But I got to find out who's the person I can grab, who's the safe person, and
Who's going to throw
who's
you
the life
yeah.
raft.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's shocking that the person you thought was going to throw you the life raft is the one who walks away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the most heartbreaking things, I think, in life.
It
Betrayal.
is. Yeah. Yeah, that sense of betrayal, and then you start questioning. You know, I think in some of the recent circumstances that I've been through, I, had a few dark days.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm thankful that over these last, 5-10 years that I've been exposed to some of these things to better, respond and acknowledge and process. But we always have dark days.
Mm-hmm.
We can know all that there is to know about leadership and emotions and feelings and humans, but we're humans, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the space that I went to of the questions, what was the last 10 years, or what was this relationship really, or what was you start thinking about all of that, of was it nothing that I thought it was over these last decades, or never in a million years do you think something that I guess felt minimal to me, felt like just a small hurdle that certainly we can overcome, was obviously a big hurdle to other people, and I get that, and I respect that, and I respect everybody's positions in that.
We're all in different stages of life, right? And we all process and perceive things so much different, and I think that's the messy part about humanity.
It is.
It's just we come with a different perspective, and our resiliency shapes that too.
Absolutely.
And our emotions and our thoughts all shape the way we see the world. And so, you can't be mad at the people. You're just like, it's more like it's hurt,
Yeah, it's hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. But knowing the right ways to respond to that hurt changes everything.
It does.
Because there once was a version of me who was like, oh, it's revenge time.
Yeah.
You hurt me.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
it's a tit for a tat. We're going.
Oh yeah,
with that mentality.
I had that too.
It's like the fighter in me comes out of like, oh no.
Yeah.
You don't, it's like the mom side of you comes out.
Yeah.
It's, somebody does that to your kid.
Yeah.
And so being able to respond to that hurt differently and feel, live in.
Still be respectful.
Yeah. Respectful of what this means for them. I only know what it means for me. I only know how it feels for me. I don't know how it feels for them. And to be respectful of that and be courteous of their time and their space and hope that, in the right time and in the right space, things will self-resolve, or, you'll be able to resolve. But
yeah, that's great. I love that story. I mean, even though it's painful, it's still a story of really loving that person still
Absolutely.
And respecting them for where they are, and just meeting them where they're at. And being like, it's okay, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. Mm-hmm. But I'm still going to do what's best for me in this situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, there was so much of my life that revolved around this tribe. You said it earlier, and it's a tribe. Mm-hmm. And we have overcome a lot together and, made it through a lot of life's challenges together. But we've all grown.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own families now, and, husbands and careers and all these kinds of things that naturally pull your time and attention away from where it used to be, and that feels uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I remember kind of going through a period, several years ago of just recognizing that things felt different. We just maybe weren't as connected as we were. It just didn't feel as, I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for. It just didn't feel dependent on, maybe is the best way to say it, and that felt really scary. And I think I probably pulled myself away from that a little bit, just because it felt scary and I wasn't quite sure how to respond.
Right.
But now I know, from learnings and just life experiences, that that's normal. That's the normal human growth pattern. And so now I look back on that period and I say, it's just because we're badasses. We're all growing, we're attending to our families and making sure that our families are growing and, our kids are able to do what they want to. And so now I look back on it with pride. Yeah. Proud that this tribe that I've been associated to my whole life, and how they've evolved as humans, as mothers, as wives, as, career women, all these kinds of things.
What a ripple effect in this community.
Right.
That SEICAA has really planted a seed in this community of not only helping the people in the community, but the people that work there to serve the people of the community. I mean, that's pretty amazing stuff. And I can see how impactful that work is and how much satisfaction that brings to you and to your team, no matter what you're really going through. In the end, it really comes down to helping people to just be able to get back on their feet again.
Right.
When their boat is turned over.
Absolutely. Yeah. When they have a few too many holes in their boat or whatever it may be. And, the last few years, I think SEICAA has always done an okay job. Mm-hmm. We know that if we're not healthy on the inside, we can't be who we need to be for the community. We can't show up who we need to be when the community needs us. But over the last few years, a lot of the things we've invested in with the emotional intelligence framework and just reconnecting, right, with humanity, reconnecting with the human soul, the human spirit. Like you guys say, it's it has to feed the human spirit, and bringing that back into focus, I think, has laid a whole brand new foundation. I know for a fact that has impacted people at SEICAA in their personal lives. I mean, we're reaping the benefits of, that work from the professional level. But several people have said how their life has changed and evolved since they've been exposed to that framework, that was what they needed. They knew that something needed to change, or that they needed to do something different. And that is just what kind of catapulted them to be in that mindset and say, matter of fact, I was having a conversation with one of them today, and she said that the emotional intelligence work that we did changed my life, more so than just being here at SEICAA and what it's done for me here and how I'm able to interact as a colleague, but it has literally changed my life. She is taking more risks. She is putting her name in the hat for things that 6 months ago she would have been doubting herself and saying, oh yeah, that sounds really fun, but there's no way I'm qualified to do that or to do this. And it's been so heartwarming to watch her evolve, and what kind of impact that's having on her personally. And then, like I said, it's just a ripple effect. So we're reaping those benefits at SEICAA from her being a better her.
Right. And you gave her the training at work so she can be a better human at home.
Right.
And a better wife and a better mother, because if she can manage her emotions and herself and become more resilient and understand herself better, she can lead her family more effectively. She can lead in her community more effectively. So, I mean, it can change generations.
Absolutely.
Just from a training at work on something like that where it's changed somebody's life. And how do you think resiliency plays a part of them gaining their learning more about emotional intelligence?
The thing about resiliency is I think we all have it at our core. It's just a matter of, if we want to grow it, if we want to use it. And for her, she has that internal drive. I see a lot of me in her. She just has that drive to want more, get more, do more, be more, all of those more things. And the framework is what she needed to really reconnect with who she is, right? Because during our journeys, we get kind of lost in I'm Hunter's mom, I'm Jake's wife, I'm, this employee at SEICAA. We get lost in that. And being able to reconnect with who we are at our core, I mean, I that's absolutely what she needed, and it's because she's resilient. Whether she knows that she's not or whether she calls it that, it's because she's resilient, because she just knows that she wants more and that she can do more. And nobody's going to, she's not going to be the one limiting herself anymore. If somebody tells her no, now she kind of has that mindset of, what's the worst that I'm going to get told? No. Cool, big deal. Where before it would be like, no, what? Yeah. If it's even an option that there's a no, I'm not doing it.
Right.
And now her whole mindset has changed to, what's the worst they're going to tell me? No? Cool, great. So what do I need to do to make it a yes?
Right.
Yeah.
What a mindset shift.
I know.
That's amazing. I love hearing those
amazing.
stories. That's really great. I love hearing when there's stories from, not only your own personal, but your employees where you can see that they've had a real shift in their life. And that makes a huge difference in humanity. Just one person, their family, their friends, if they can, be that life preserver for other people.
Yep.
We all get our turn.
And her whole family is going to benefit from that.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And it's from where I sit in that role, I am just loving the energy that I'm feeling coming off of it, and what what I'm getting at, selfishly what I'm getting out of it by watching her.
Oh, it's such a
take that.
rush.
It's like, I want more. Okay, where's I want to hear more. Keep it coming.
It's such good
it's
stuff.
just what fills you up. To see people actualize a different version of themselves and start living that version of themselves is like, that is such a gift.
It is. Doing good for other people, and just, we always say, we're discovering gems in this gem state, and some people are really dirty and dusty, and they just need somebody to believe in them. They need somebody to dust them off. They need somebody to just shine them up a little bit and believe in them when they can't believe in themselves.
It's true.
And we're finding workplace gems all over the place. And I don't know this person's name, but I'm sure I know her from our trainings.
I'm sure you do.
But that she's a real gem. She's just, and she's starting to shine. Mm-hmm. And, who knows where she's going to go with that, but I'm sure that she's going to be a great contributor to this community and to her family.
She will. She will take it, and it will take her places.
Absolutely.
I have no doubt. And she, oftentimes with all of us, people recognize it in us before we do, right? Mm-hmm. Since day one, I've been telling her, like, you are such an asset to this organization, and you're not afraid to get your hands dirty and get in. You're not afraid to ask the questions and, give me some baseline. And then, she's not afraid to let you know what she needs from you to help her succeed. And so it's just part of her foundation, even though she doesn't know it, being resilient and being driven and being, all of these kinds of things is who she is at her core. She just needed a little something to kind of rebirth that for her.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say about resiliency being a leadership skill?
Yeah. Resiliency is an essential trait of a leader, because without it, both our physical and mental health and our relationships are at risk. If you don't have resiliency to help you process things, to help you know when it's appropriate to compartmentalize and when it's appropriate to deal with something, then how can you foster a culture of resilient people? How can you have a workplace of resilient people if you're not resilient? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's essential that leaders, people who want to be in leadership roles, people who are, dabbling in that of, is this for me, is this not for me? I think that arguably it's the most important thing. And I think what couples on that, I think they go hand in hand, is resilient leaders are emotionally intelligent. Mm-hmm. And they're interchangeable. If you're emotionally intelligent, likely you're resilient. If you're resilient, you have emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so I think that because leadership goes beyond just the brain, it has to encompass the whole person. Mm-hmm. And you have to be resilient to do that. And you have to be emotionally intelligent to do that. And in order to engage teams to be resilient, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable, to express the feelings and be curious about others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If you can't connect to somebody on their human level, then you can't connect with them. Mm-hmm. I think it's that simple. Mm-hmm. If you lack the skills, the mindset, the desire, whatever you want to call it, because skills are skills. We can all learn those and grow those. But if you lack the desire, leadership is not for you. Because the term leadership, when I say that term leadership, I kind of feel the tinglies. I feel the fire burning. It just does something. And if you're not able to connect with that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's hard work. And
it's messy.
It's messy. It's really messy. But the foundation to that starts and ends with being willing to be vulnerable and be curious about other people. Because if you're not a leader. You're just a manager. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I want to ask one final question about SEICAA and what you learned about through COVID with you did the emotional intelligence training during COVID because your people are in the trenches with the people who need assistance, and a lot of the customers or the end users are in fight or flight. Absolutely. And they're literally just scavenging, right? They're living in a panic state of chaos, and their emotions are hijacked, and they're super angry. So how did you all deal with that?
Well, it was, at the early signs of that, there were several of my team members saying, I can't take it, because people are coming in so hijacked and so, in crisis mode and just angry, and we're receiving that. And it's just how it happens. And so, I heard a lot of this. I can't, if one more person calls me today or walks in my office and yells at me or, tells me that I've ruined their life or whatever, just that negative animosity, all of those things, I'm going to break. I'm going to break. And that's when we started, bringing in that emotional intelligence framework. And what the change that I have seen from that is that we're better. The whole team is better at saying, it's not about me, being able to better empathize, right, with their situation. We work in this world because we're naturally empathetic people. I mean, that's just what draws us to this line of work. But they're better able to say, this isn't about me. How can I kind of de-escalate this and recognize that this person is hijacked and take it, do what I can to help them, and move on instead of festering on it or continuing to talk about it. And can you believe that, they did that or they said that or like they're coming at me like it's my fault. Now we're a lot more emotionally mature at saying, I know it's not my fault. I know they're in a bad place. I am empathetic and sympathetic for the place that they're in. And I'm going home today knowing that I did everything that I have the power and the control to do to help their situation.
Yeah. What a powerful tool to have, and just to give them the ability to know that they can be empathetic but not take on the emotions of other people. Right. Because emotions are contagious. They
are. And I think society, in my 15 years of working in this line of work, I think there's a societal, we don't know how to separate that, right? If you're empathetic, and that means that, you absorb other people's energies and it's your responsibility to deal with it. And that, no, it's not, like you just said, to be empathetic doesn't mean that you have to carry those emotions around and let them affect your state. They shouldn't be hijacking you and who you are, but just, recognizing.
And just see them and meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it needs to be your bad day either, right?
Right.
And not taking it personal. I think that's huge.
It's hard.
Yeah, but learning that you're not the main character in their story. They're just trying to get food and water and like basic needs met, and they're angry and scared.
Absolutely
really, it's
scared.
Fear-based.
It's fear. It's absolutely fear-based. And, in my early days at SEICAA, it took me a minute. It's a fine balance of, well, I'm going to help everybody. And I'm going to go to the ends of the earth to do what I can for this person, to the other side, of absorbing those things. And it wears you out. I mean, it makes you exhausted. And honestly, I don't know if I wouldn't have been exposed to the opportunities to move more into the administrative roles instead of the program administration roles. I don't know that my emotional, not yet quite mature person, in my mid-20s, early 30s, I don't know that I would have stayed, because I think I would have let myself get burnt out. I wouldn't have had the tools and resources I needed at that point to balance that and kind of deflect. And
I think it's a real huge piece of organizational work is teaching resilience and emotional intelligence, because that will keep people in the organization when they're learning and growing, and they're learning tools that can help them in their work life and in their personal life.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just see them flourish.
You do. And I mean, there's everything to be said about recognizing the workplace, the people in our workplace as humans first, colleagues, employees, whatever. Second, we all know that we're colleagues in this workplace, or that I'm, an employee at SEICAA. But before any of that, I am me and we are we. And, that it has to start there. Yeah. And I hope that as we come out of this pandemic, that other employers, I think that there's a pretty good amount of employers who are recognizing that they haven't been focused on what's important for far too long.
Yeah.
And I just would encourage them, if you're thinking about it, invest. Your employees are your most important, valuable asset. And more than just the production that they can give for you or, produce for you or those kinds of things, but how can you see them as a human being and
help them contribute
relate.
to society and to their families. And
it's a win-win for everybody.
is.
You're helping them, you know, be better both at work and in their home life, and they're likely going to perform better for you if they feel valued on a different level other than when they get kudos because, you know, they sealed a deal or they increased the numbers or they had some sort of widget production. If, you know, if it's being recognized and valued for far more than that, we all win.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Shantay,
Thank
for
you.
coming
This
and being
is
on
fun.
this show. Yeah, it's so much fun. I could talk to you for hours. So thank you for listening today to Leader U. We know your time is your most precious resource. Please share this with your friends and family and learn more about us at blackriverpm.com.